Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Today we have Max Porterfield, President, Director, and CEO of Callinex Mines, here to discuss their high-grade gold and copper deposits. Max is going to go through their corporate presentation and discuss topics and give everyone an overview. So on that note, Max, if you'd like to take it away, please feel free.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, I'm Max Porterfield, President and CEO of Callinex Mines, where we have expanding high-grade gold and copper deposits in prolific Canadian mining jurisdictions across Canada. So without further ado, just jumping into things, here's the forward-looking information. So if you look at the project portfolio overview, as many of you are aware of our strong presence in Manitoba with our emerging high-grade copper discoveries, where we're sitting just shy of 6 million tons, pending an AEP permit, where we've consolidated that land package and have really quite exciting exploration opportunities and targets there to drive that resource growth further in the future. We also have a portfolio of assets in Eastern Canada and the Maritimes with our Point Leamington deposit in Newfoundland, which is dramatically risen in intrinsic value with the move that you've seen in metal prices, particularly gold, over the last year. And of course, as everybody's seen, the rise in gold prices year to date in particular. And I think that we're in a really new environment for gold prices moving forward, and that in situ value increase that we've seen at Point Leamington relative to our other projects in the portfolio make it a real asset to go after and execute on it and to drive forward in the immediate future. And that's what we're looking to discuss today as we move these projects forward. So Point Leamington is a deposit that was, again, discovered in 1971, and we'll break through the history. But as it sits today, it's a very large near-surface deposit, sits right at surface, gold, copper, zinc, silver VMS deposit. Again, the deposit sits within a mineral lease, just like our Rainbow and Pine Bay deposits do in Manitoba. So it provides for advanced permitting. The resource is broken down. It's 43-101 compliant from 2021, both a pit-constrained resource as well as an out-of-pit resource. And in that pit-constrained resource, it's an indicated and inferred category. And if you look in kind of in discussion with the big gold exposure that deposit has, you're looking at over 500,000 ounces of gold in that pit-constrained resource at Point Leamington. And in terms of exploration, last exploration drilling at depth intersected some very, very high-grade mineralization. And again, when you look at depth, it's relatively very shallow, roughly at between the 350 to 400 meter level. So again, we see tremendous opportunity at growing the resource at Point Leamington from an exploration standpoint for that deposit. And then also on a regional basis, we see some key ground based upon airborne EM data. We have over 2,400 line kilometers of airborne EM. And so we've selected isolated geophysical targets that sit in the same pedigree, geologically speaking, of a setting that would host a deposit like Point Leamington. And if you look at these VMS deposits, not just in Flin Flon, Newfoundland, Bathurst, but currently across the globe, they do occur in clusters. So Point Leamington is one of what we believe to be many other VMS deposits to be found in the immediate proximity that we've identified. So again, exploration is a real opportunity at the Point Leamington deposit, but right now you're sitting with a indicated and inferred resource that totals over 18 million tons, roughly 5 million tons in the indicated, the rest being in inferred, and the majority of which again is pit constrained, which I'll show you here in the not too distant future as we go through this presentation. So taking a step back and looking at the history of Point Leamington, Point Leamington was originally, the exploration was originally conducted by Newmont with geologic mapping back starting in 1953. And then a real key turning point was with the advancement of airborne geophysics an airborne survey that was and ground survey that was completed by Phelps Dodge in 1967, which ultimately led to the discovery of Point Leamington in 1971. So Point Leamington was discovered in 1971 by Noranda, and Noranda put over 71 drill holes and 20,000 meters of drilling into the deposit in the surrounding area between 1971 all the way up until 1997, before divesting of the deposit again in 1998 to Rubicon. And from a metallurgical standpoint, Point Leamington had very limited metallurgical work done in 1976, and then again in 1990 and 1988, before Rubicon acquiring it. After Rubicon acquired it, it was very quickly then optioned off in a joint venture option agreement with BHP, where BHP was going to earn 70% of Point Leamington for taking it into production. Ultimately, BHP chose to drop that option a couple years later. And then from an exploration perspective, it was not too long after that, in 2004, followed up by TLC Ventures. And TLC had a very successful exploration campaign with the 5 holes they drilled, 2,400 meters of drilling. They expanded the high-grade mineralization that we see continue to be expanded from our standpoint as well. And then they also discovered a new zone of mineralization along strike from Point Leamington that needs further follow-up. And then since that time, the deposit hasn't seen any exploration. So again, it's been over 20 years or 2 decades since any kind of exploration has been done at the Point Leamington deposit. Newmarket acquired and IPO'd on the Point Leamington deposit and did very limited work on it before shifting over their focus to Australia, another opportunity that presented themselves at the time. And again, they drilled just 2 holes for 256 meters for very limited metallurgical work on the deposit. We acquired the deposit again in 2016. And if you look at the metal price environment, and when we acquired Point Leamington, was a much different metal environment than we are today. When we acquired Point Leamington, gold prices, for example, were at $1,250 an ounce. Copper was at roughly $2.40, $2.50 an ounce. Zinc was below 70 cents. Copper was below $2.50 a pound. Zinc was below 70 cents a pound. And when we look at the metal price environment that we are today, with gold at $3,300 US, copper prices again north of $4 a pound, and zinc north of $1.20 a pound today, that's had a dramatic intrinsic improvement in the intrinsic value of the Point Leamington deposit, which is again why we're going to be focusing on it moving forward in the immediate future. We updated the resource at Point Leamington in 2021. So again, as I've kind of described the resource there, but we've yet to move the deposit forward from an exploration or development side of things, which we're eager to do in the immediate future this year. So to show you Point Leamington and what the deposit looks like, we're going to go through a couple of images on that and highlight some of the exploration opportunities, and then kind of close things out in terms of the approach moving it forward, really a 3-prong approach this year in 2025, and the expansion of our team in the near future to assist with that. So here's a 3D view of Point Leamington. You can see the deposit starts right near surface. As I mentioned before, the indicated category is roughly 5 million tons. And then again, the remainder, both in the inferred category, in pit and out of pit, is what totals on 18 million tons on the resource, 18.4 million tons on the resource. And you can see some of that resource being out of pit based upon this image here. And then we'll just jump over very quickly and show you all the historic drilling that supported the in-pit resource and what that pit design looks like as of right now. And then this is jumping over to show you a long section of the potential to grow the high-grade resource out of pit. As you can see, some very high-grade intervals of mineralization here, 4.5 meters of 15% zinc, over 4 gram per ton gold, and nearly 2 ounce silver. And again, you're looking along strike from that 4.5 meters of over 8% zinc, 2 grams per ton gold, over 80 grams per ton silver. So again, tremendous potential to increase the resource at depth at Point Leamington beyond where it's been drilled out to date. And then, as I mentioned, there's some highlights of some mineralization that's been intersected along strike, 4 meters over 5% zinc, 1.5 per ton gold, and over an ounce silver. So again, there's exciting potential immediately to be executed from an exploration perspective out of the resource at Point Leamington. And part of that is also going to be a re-review of borehole EM data as we approach an exploration campaign to grow the resource base of this high-grade mineralization beyond what's known to date. And we'll just show you, taking off the pit shells, what this mineralization looks like. This is, again, you can see over 0.5% copper, over 2% zinc in the red bars there, and then the yellow is over 2 gram per ton gold, as is just being shown here on this image. So again, a real potential to grow this very large near surface VMS deposit with over 500,000 ounces of gold in the indicated and inferred categories based upon that 43-101 compliant resource. And here's just a simplified long section for everybody to review. Now, beyond the growing the deposit from an exploration standpoint on the inferred, in the deposit itself, we are also going to be following up on regional targets. We have a number of isolated airborne VTEM anomalies that I had mentioned before and alluded to before that will be ground truth and further detailed and be prioritized for testing this year. And then we'll also be doing a robust sampling campaign of the near surface mineralization at Point Leamington for ultimately a metallurgical, multi-phase metallurgical testing, which really refine the recovery of the metals at Point Leamington, as we will then look to quickly advance with economic studies thereafter as we continue to grow that resource base through exploration, where we've had a tremendous amount of success. So again, the team has emerging high-grade discoveries in numerous jurisdictions within Canada. The recent move over the last 12 months, in particular last year to date, in gold has robustly had a dramatic impact to the in situ or intrinsic value of the Point Leamington deposit. And looking forward, will be announcing a growth to our strong team that's already strong as is, going to be getting a lot stronger with this key skill sets to execute the strategy and plan that we've kind of discussed at a high level today. Both from a geological perspective, we'll be bringing on a member of the team adding to Callinex's team one of the key personnel that discovered the Point Leamington deposit very early in their career. They've, beyond that, had a tremendous amount of success in Newfoundland and beyond for VMS, and they'll be able to bring that experience and expertise back on to their first discovery in their career at Point Leamington to add tremendous amount of value. So we'll be excited to announce that in the not too distant future. And from the metallurgical front, we've really recruited, I think, some of the best in terms of a metallurgical team that's got a tremendous track record in the development of technologies in the recovery of gold across various deposit styles, and really eager to have them come on and lead us in our approach to the refinement of the metallurgical recovery of all the metals at Point Leamington, of course, with a particular emphasis on gold because of the value of gold in relation to the other metals in the deposit. So again, quite keen to continue to advance Newfoundland moving forward because of all these reasons that we discussed with the team, the cap structure, and the supportive shareholder base in Newfoundland. And in terms of Newfoundland as a jurisdiction, it's a wonderful jurisdiction to be in. It's ranked as one of the top 10 jurisdictions globally, according to the Fraser Institute's most recent rankings. You've got a number of successful companies like Newfound Gold, like Firefly Metals. Firefly Metals advancing a very successful VMS discovery that's growing exponentially there. And I really believe, and we believe as a team, of the same future as ahead of us at Point Leamington, with the potential to grow that resource and advance it very, very quickly in a very, very favorable environment to do so, with a supporting permitting regime from the government of Newfoundland. Mining makes up roughly a third of Newfoundland's economy, and Newfoundland has a long history of being very supportive of mining and continues to be supportive of mining currently and moving forward into the future. In addition to that, the Point Leamington deposit sits within a mineral lease, so it provides for advanced permitting, just like our discoveries to date in Manitoba do sit within a mineral lease. And also, just like Manitoba, Newfoundland benefits from clean electric power, both from hydroelectric power and other clean energy generation sources, which are also low cost. So all the benefits from a jurisdictional standpoint, Newfoundland benefits from. And so we're excited to get to work there to, again, advance it with a three-prong approach, growing the deposit from exploration on the deposit level, hitting new discoveries in proximity to Point Leamington, and unlocking and really refining the metallurgical recovery for those metals as we then quickly advance to economics studies on the deposit and other new discoveries that we'll be looking to make here in 2025. So with that being said, thank you so much for taking the time. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly by phone or email. And for those looking to purchase shares of the company, you can obviously do so. We trade on the Toronto Venture Exchange on the ticker CNX, as well as the OTCQX exchange in the United States under the ticker CLLXF. And again, thanks so much for taking the time to learn about what we're up to in Newfoundland at our Point Leamington deposit and beyond.
Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.